On our 7th wedding anniversary, a junior who had a crush on my wife for 5 years deliberately hit me with his car. The woman who claimed to love only me, Rebecca, signed a letter of understanding while I was unconscious. She didn't hold Andy accountable. When I woke up, Rebecca helplessly said to me, "Andy just got confused for a moment. We can't ruin his life over this. He just likes me too much." Seeing Rebecca's calm face, which couldn't hide the pain, I realized our marriage had gone sour. What if I insist on pursuing this? I asked, looking at Rebecca calmly. Rebecca looked back at me disapprovingly. "Jack, you're a lawyer. You know how harsh it is for a young person just starting out to have a criminal record. You all say law is not devoid of human touch, right? Andy already knows he's wrong. He even tried to kill himself because of it. Isn't that punishment enough?" I stared expressionlessly at Rebecca, who was aggressively defending another man to me. An indescribable bitterness welled up inside. When Rebecca realized her tone was off, she instantly went silent. I didn't jump in to defend her like I used to. I just looked at her quietly. After a while, Rebecca explained that she just couldn't bear to see a young person's future get ruined and asked me not to overthink it. I gave a little laugh and said nothing. With no response from me, Rebecca seemed a bit unsettled. She called out hesitantly, "Honey, Before Rebecca could finish, a nurse burst in, anxious. "Rebecca, the patient you brought in yesterday is awake and threatening to commit suicide." Rebecca's face changed. She said she'd go check it out and left without looking back. Andy often pulled this kind of stunt before. I never thought much of it, but I didn't expect Rebecca to let him affect her. Not long after, I got a notification on my phone. It was an update from Andy. She says she's not into me, but her actions show love. The picture showed Rebecca anxiously examining him. I scrolled up and saw many similar updates. Almost every one of them had a photo of Rebecca. Turns out, while I wasn't paying attention, they had so much interaction. Many times, Rebecca told me she was working late at the hospital. But now I knew most of those times she was with Andy. From Andy's posts, I clearly saw how their relationship developed. Late at night, unable to sleep, I got up and went to the window. As I looked out, I froze when I saw the two of them nearby. "Sis, you have feelings for me. Why else would you care so much?" Andy said excitedly, looking at Rebecca's indifferent expression. "I just can't stand." Andy cut her off. "Sis, stop lying to yourself. I don't mind. As long as I can be with you, I don't need a label." Rebecca's face showed a hint of emotion. Noticing the change, Andy cupped her face and kissed her. Rebecca raised her hand but put it back down. After a few tries, she finally gave in and hugged him back. Watching them passionately kiss in the night, I lowered my head and chuckled wryly. After a while, someone passing by made a noise. Rebecca suddenly seemed to come to her senses, shoving Andy away. Caught off guard, he fell to the ground but laughed happily while sitting there. Rebecca muttered crazy under her breath and walked away. I snorted, sent a message, and returned to my bed. Soon, I got a reply, "Really?" The next second, my phone rang. Just as I was about to answer, Rebecca walked in. I discreetly ended the call. Rebecca noticed my window had a view of where she and Andy kissed. A guilty look flashed across her face, but she quickly composed herself and asked cautiously, "Honey, why aren't you asleep yet?" At her term of endearment, I realized something. Rebecca only called me that when she felt guilty or needed a favor. I didn't answer, just calmly asked about Andy's condition. Rebecca paused before saying, "He's fine, just being a brat. As his attending physician, I can't ignore it." As she finished, she realized she'd misspoken. Andy hurt his head and "No need to explain, I don't care." I interrupted, cutting Rebecca off from telling more lies. Rebecca frowned. "What do you mean you don't care? What could I possibly do with Andy? You know I hate people who cling on." Seeing her overly emotional reaction, I chuckled lightly. "You hate him the most, so why associate with him, right?" Rebecca's face went blank, then confirmed. "Right?" She pointed at my vibrating phone. "Who's calling you in the middle of the night?" I glanced at it and casually said, "Spam call." But Rebecca didn't buy it and tried to grab my phone. I blocked her with my hand. She frowned, annoyed. Are you hiding something from me? Calmly, I said, I'm a lawyer. My phone has a lot of others' private information. Rebecca opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. I didn't look at her again, just picked up my phone and walked out. When I answered, an excited female voice came through. Jack, did you really agree to be the legal consultant for my company? Did you get a divorce from Rebecca? Are you willing to be with me? Annie's excited voice made my ears buzz. She'd invited me to join her company as a legal consultant a while back. But because of Rebecca, I never accepted her offer. After her many invites, I told her I'd only join if Rebecca and I got divorced. She then sighed, teasing about it. Our friends all believed Rebecca and I were deeply in love. Rebecca had given up her family inheritance for me, choosing to be an ordinary doctor at a hospital. But never in my wildest dreams did I think Rebecca would have a change of heart. I snapped back to reality thanks to Annie shouting my name repeatedly. Yeah, I'm ready for a divorce. Strangely, my words seemed to calm Annie down. She stared at me and asked if something had happened. I replied calmly, let's talk about it another time. I'll reach out to you in a week. Just then, Rebecca walked out of the hospital room and caught the last part of the conversation. She looked confused and asked who I was seeing in a week. I told Annie I had to go and finally turned to Rebecca. Just a client meeting in a week. She didn't press further. She wrapped her arm around my waist and spoke softly. Jack, I was too anxious earlier. I signed that letter of understanding because I didn't want to owe Andy so much. You get it, right? As I listened to Rebecca, I believed her intentions were genuine then. But maybe she didn't even realize her heart had already drifted away from me. I smiled a bit. I understand. I'm tired, heading back to rest. Hearing me say tired, Rebecca hurried me to get some rest. Blaming herself, she said, it's all my fault. Patients should really get more rest, and here I was arguing over something trivial. Seeing the genuine guilt on her face, I still couldn't figure out her actions today. I bowed my head, hiding the sadness in my eyes. Just one more week, and it'll all be over. During my 3 days in the hospital, Rebecca visited after work daily, staying with me in my room. Outwardly, everything seemed normal, but I knew that late every night, she would meet up with Andy. From Andy's posts, I saw them stargazing at the beach and going across the city for barbecue. Even on the night Rebecca claimed to be on an overnight shift, she was with Andy at a hotel. In Andy's video, he repeatedly asked if Rebecca cared about him. I didn't think she would answer, yet I heard her whisper a breathy, affirmative and that sound shattered my heart. The next day, Rebecca showed up bright and early, breakfast in hand. I eyed the name on the breakfast package. The place was over 10 kilometers from the hospital, but it was right near the hotel she went to with Andy yesterday. Why go so far for breakfast? Rebecca paused her unpacking for a second. Oh, nothing much going on this morning. So I drove out. I know you like it. You eat first. I need to attend a meeting in the ward. Not long after Rebecca left, Andy strolled into the room. Surprisingly, I was calmer than I thought I'd be. Before he could speak, I told him Rebecca wasn't around. He looked a bit baffled, then smirked. I know she's not here, just returning her coat. Returning a coat? I sneered. Why would anyone return it here? I glanced at the coat in his hands, then tossed it aside. Thanks, I said flatly. Undeterred, Andy wondered why I wasn't curious about the coat being with him. I shrugged and kept eating. A coat doesn't mean much. She might have tossed it to you without thinking. Andy shot me a frustrated glare. Sis, yesterday. He began but didn't finish. Rebecca barged in, cutting him off. What are you doing here? Seeing Andy, she froze slightly. Just bringing back your coat, sis. Thanks for it yesterday. Rebecca looked at him with irritation. If there's nothing else, leave now. Looking wounded, Andy cast a longing glance at Rebecca before leaving. Once the door closed, Rebecca quickly tried to explain. Jack, don't listen to him. There's nothing between us. He was just discharged yesterday with no clothes, so I lent him mine. Never expected he'd bring it here to stir up trouble. I finished my porridge and said leisurely. He didn't say anything, just returning a coat. Regret flickered in Rebecca's eyes, likely regretting saying too much. It seemed like a cover-up. Yet all she could utter was, "All right then." At that moment, her phone rang. I spotted Andy's name flashing on the screen. Rebecca glanced at it, muttered about an emergency, and hurried off. Listening to her lie more smoothly each time, I chuckled bitterly, then started drafting my divorce papers. When Rebecca returned, her lips looked freshly kissed. I noticed but didn't comment. She unconsciously touched them too, and glimpsing the divorce papers on my screen, she seemed momentarily panicked. "Jack, aren't you a corporate lawyer? Where'd the divorce papers come from?" "For a friend," I replied dismissively. Rebecca seemed ready to probe more, but her department's ringtone interrupted. "Patient needs urgent care. I have to go." Watching her rush away, I resumed my work on the divorce papers. The following day, as I dealt with my discharge papers, Rebecca finally showed up at the ward, looking exhausted. The department had several patients requiring critical care all night, she said, clearly worn out. Unlike before, I didn't rush to comfort her. I merely remarked coolly, "That sounds tough." My indifferent demeanor irked her. "Jack, what's with you these days? What's the deal with the understanding letter? Why can't you just get it?" I met her eyes, but stayed silent. "I have urgent work at the firm. I'll be home early. We need to talk tonight." Without waiting for her to reply, I left. Back at the law firm, I printed my transfer request for the partner. We had already discussed it, and I'd be handling the firm's affairs moving forward. After this, I drove home with my divorce papers on hand. But even by 10 p.m., there was no sign or word from Rebecca. Scrolling through social media, I spotted Andy's new post from 10 minutes ago. In the photo, he and Rebecca kissed under the stars. The location tagged was the same beach where I had proposed to Rebecca. Clutching the divorce papers, I jumped into my car, heading to the location. Before I even reached the spot, I heard people chanting, "Say yes, say yes." In the midst of everyone cheering around us, Rebecca nodded slowly. As the crowd dispersed, Andy held Rebecca's hand with a big smile, turning back. The moment Rebecca looked up and saw me, her smile vanished. She looked utterly terrified, her face twisted. "Honey, what are you doing here?" I looked at Rebecca, my gaze colder than ever. "Here to witness your love." Just as Rebecca was about to say something, I handed her divorce papers, my voice chilly. "Rebecca, let's get a divorce." Rebecca's eyes widened at my words. "Jack, you're joking, right? I was just messing around with Andy. It would have been awkward to reject him in front of so many people." Her voice was slightly trembling. "You're messing around with me too, aren't you?" I pushed the divorce papers forward, my gaze serious. "Do I look like I'm joking around with you?" Tears welled up in Rebecca's eyes. "Honey, believe me, there's nothing between Andy and me. He's the one who's been relentlessly pursuing me." Her every word seemed genuine. If I hadn't seen Andy's posts on social media, I might have believed her. I glanced at Andy, who looked pale behind her, and let out a mocking laugh. "Your little boyfriend is about to crumble. Are you sure you don't want to check on him?" Rebecca hesitated for a moment. Then she quickly decided and said, "Don't say that. I only agreed to humor him to save face. I won't contact him again. I'll delete him now." As she spoke, she pulled out her phone, attempting to block all of Andy's contact info. Andy, looking woeful, grabbed Rebecca's arm. "Senior, I won't bother you anymore. Could you?" Rebecca impatiently pushed him aside. "It's all your fault. You made Jack misunderstand me. Don't show up in front of me again." Watching their performance, I couldn't help but curl my lips into a sardonic smile. Andy looked heartbroken as he gazed at her. Rebecca hardened her heart, pulling me away to leave. Andy's eyes were full of bitterness and malice. After Rebecca had dragged me far enough, I shook off her hand. "The play's over. Can you sign now?" Rebecca looked at me, confused. "Play? Jack, what do you mean?" I chuckled lightly. "You seemed to be enjoying the act, so I joined in for a bit." A hint of guilt flashed across her face as she denied knowing anything about an act. I watched her silently without saying a word. After a moment, Rebecca turned her head away. Let's not drag this out. Sign the divorce papers and we'll finalize it tomorrow. I spoke coldly. Rebecca opened her mouth to say something when Andy ran up from behind. Senior, divorce him, I'll treat you right. He doesn't appreciate you, Before he could finish, Rebecca slapped him hard. What nonsense are you spouting? How could I divorce Jack? I was only pitying you playing those silly games. Andy's eyes widened involuntarily. Senior, do you mean it? Rebecca didn't answer but turned her head away, unable to bear looking at him. Andy's eyes instantly brimmed with tears. Watching the two of them, I couldn't help but give a sarcastic smile. Rebecca grabbed my hand. Jack, I won't contact him anymore. Don't misunderstand. He's just a kid. I placed the divorce papers in her hand. Once you sign these, what you do is none of my business. With that, I turned and headed towards the car. Rebecca held tightly onto my hand, desperately pleading, Jack. After enough time had passed, I harshly shook her hand off. Rebecca, I don't want to make this uglier. Just sign it. You know I'm a lawyer. The fact that I have the papers means I have evidence. Rebecca's face froze. I left before she could react. In the rearview mirror, I saw Andy holding Rebecca from behind. Rebecca shook him off. The two of them continued arguing endlessly. Back home, I started packing my things. Rebecca had bought this house before we got married. We didn't see the need to change, so we stayed here. Staring at the wedding photo on the wall, memories of our wedding day flooded back. I lost my parents at a young age. At our wedding, Rebecca took my hand and introduced me to her parents, telling me solemnly that I now have a family of my own. She swore she'd be by my side forever. I believed her, but somewhere along the way, the person who said those vows changed. Thinking about this, I glanced out the window at the sunshine. I took the wedding photo off the wall, tore my part of it from hers. At that moment, a strange sense of relief washed over me. So, I got rid of anything in the house that belonged to me. Just as Rebecca opened the door, I was tossing our matching mugs into the trash. Seeing this, she rushed over to retrieve them. But when she looked at the contents of the trash, she froze, looking up at me in disbelief. You threw all of this away? I gave her a cold glance. Take them if you want. With that, I dragged my suitcase, ready to leave. Rebecca held onto my hand tightly. I said I won't contact Andy anymore. Isn't that enough? I looked back at her with impatience, curled my lips into a smile. Didn't you already accept someone else's love confession? Didn't you two already sleep together? My words cast a flash of guilt across Rebecca's face. What are you talking about? Before she could say anything else, I played the video I had saved on my phone in front of her. Rebecca's face grew progressively paler with the video, until her lips moved, but no words came out. I had no intention of continuing the conversation, glanced at the time on my phone, and left. With my suitcase, I checked into a nearby hotel. Before long, Rebecca messaged me, saying she was willing to sign the divorce papers. I arranged to meet her at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau the next morning. The next morning, I met Rebecca at the entrance to the Civil Affairs office. I handed her the divorce papers. Sign it. But Rebecca said she came to explain the video. The video was shot after Andy drugged me. I didn't know about it. Honey, isn't there a saying that ignorance is bliss? Her words made me frown. I couldn't believe she was still lying to me at this point. What about that time at the hospital when you kissed? I saw it myself. Were you drugged then too? Or hypnotized? By the end, my voice had a slight growl to it. After all those years together, the betrayal wasn't as calm as I seemed. Rebecca's face froze. She wanted to argue but couldn't say a word. I pinched my nose, feeling tired. Sign it. I don't want to be tangled up with you anymore. Tears welled up in Rebecca's eyes. She whispered an apology and took the divorce papers, heading into the office ahead of me. The divorce process was quick. I looked at the paper noting a 30-day cooling-off period. See you in 30 days. With that, I turned to leave, but Rebecca grabbed my hand. Jack, even though I've signed, I'm not giving up. I didn't reply, just walked away. Back at the hotel, I grabbed my luggage and headed straight to the airport. As the plane took off, I posted on social media. I said goodbye to the past. When the plane landed, a group of friends I hadn't seen in ages was waiting at the airport. Annie was at the front. When I came out, they all swarmed me. "You're finally back. Good to have you, we've got a room ready for you." Hearing them filled me with warmth. Annie smiled softly at me from the crowd. I walked up to her, smiling. "Hey Annie, I'm back." She chuckled softly. "Come on, we've got a welcome dinner for you." They took me to a favorite hot pot spot from before. After a few drinks, a friend nudged me. "Jack, have you thought about Xiaoyu? She's waited for you all these years." Annie liking me was an open secret. I smiled. "I'm not thinking about that stuff now, gotta focus on making money." Annie looked a tiny bit disappointed, but quickly joked, "You're just trying to get my money." The topic moved on quickly. Later, Annie helped me home, tipsy. 2 years away, and you can't hold your liquor? I chuckled. She didn't like drinking, so I drank very little with her. Rebecca couldn't stand the smell of alcohol. With her, I barely had a drop. Annie's smile stiffened for a moment. Then she silently brought me some honey water. Seeing it, I was surprised. "Where'd this honey come from?" Annie rolled her eyes. "I bought it." The house didn't just make honey itself. It reminded me of the times Annie would always get us back safely after a night out, always giving me an extra glass of honey water. Closing my eyes, I felt a bit guilty. "Xiaoyu, I'm sorry, But Annie cut me off. "Jack, you know I'm not looking for an apology. I'm used to it by now." That stopped me from saying more. The next morning, Rebecca called, waking me up. She asked what I wanted for breakfast like before. I paused for a moment before coldly replying, "We're divorced." Rebecca didn't hide her sadness. "We can still have breakfast, right? Be friends?" "I'm not interested in being friends. Don't contact me if there's nothing else." I hung up the call and blocked her. Just as I got up to get ready, the doorbell rang. It was Annie standing there with breakfast. She smiled brightly. "Jack, I brought you breakfast." I blinked. "You came all the way to bring me breakfast?" Annie pointed across the hall, saying she lived right there. Annie's feelings for me were always out in the open, but it never felt awkward between us. After breakfast, as we were about to head out, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number. Turned out to be Rebecca. "Jack, I went to your firm, they said you applied for a transfer." "Where are you?" I didn't expect her to go to the firm. "This has nothing to do with you." My words clearly hurt Rebecca. "It does. I want to see you." "Jack, let's go." Before Rebecca finished, Annie's voice came through. She yelled, "Why is Annie there?" "Jack, why are you with Annie?" Her reaction didn't surprise me. Annie was a thorn in her side. I didn't answer, just hung up. That day, Rebecca called and texted countless times, mostly asking about Annie and me. I ignored it all. When Annie came to grab lunch with me, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She raised her eyebrows and asked if she could answer it. Without looking up, I said, "Yeah, if you want to." Annie casually picked up, and after a simple hello, Rebecca's shouting came from the other end. "Why are you answering Jack's phone? What's your relationship?" Annie grinned more. "Why do you need him?" "Jack's busy." Her words made Rebecca even more frantic. Annie hung up amidst her screams. Feeling cheery again, she said, "Let's go eat. I'm in a good mood. I'll treat you to some sashimi." Seeing all the sashimi on the table, I knew she wasn't joking. "Eat up. Don't you like sashimi?" I ate while watching Annie's uncontainable smile. She didn't mind and just focused on her meal. That afternoon, a coworker from the law firm texted me saying Rebecca was there all afternoon. She went around asking everyone where I was. No one told her that I was out on assignment. Rebecca hysterically yelled outside the law firm. She didn't look at all like her usual cold self. Watching the video of her freaking out, I calmly turned off my phone and got back to work, just when I thought I'd never see Rebecca again. A week later, after work, I saw her at the company's entrance. I frowned and tried to walk around her. Rebecca quickly approached me. "Jack, come home with me. Stop being stubborn." Her words made me laugh off my anger. "I'm here for work." Rebecca didn't believe me and kept talking to herself. That's just you being stubborn, I know it. Why else would you choose to work here? I didn't want to argue with her. I planned to walk past her and leave. But Rebecca went crazy and shouted behind me. I barely took a few steps before she grabbed my hand. Jack, I'm begging you. Come back with me, please? I looked at her, annoyed. Rebecca, we're done. We're divorced. Rebecca wouldn't give up. As she was about to say something else, Annie's voice came from behind. Dr. Rebecca, you cheated and now you want Jack back? You want all the good for yourself? Rebecca's face turned even grimmer. She coldly said that Annie was relentless. Annie wasn't bothered. She smirked at Rebecca. Then she deliberately hooked her arm around mine. Jack, my mom knows you're back and wants you over for dinner. I looked at Annie, surprised. She hadn't mentioned this before. My family and Annie's have known each other for ages. But seeing her wink at me, I went along with it. Rebecca choked up and said, Jack, you promised not to see her, you can't break your word. She used to be bothered by my relationship with Annie, and so I naturally stayed away and drifted from my old friends too. I didn't expect that returning this time, I could hang with them like before. I stared at Rebecca coldly. That's all in the past. You wouldn't remember everything I said casually, right? Then I took Annie's hand and left. Rebecca's cries didn't stop me at all. She was just a part of my past. The past shouldn't affect my path to the future. When Annie mentioned dinner at her place, I thought she was just saying it. But standing in front of Annie's house had me a bit thrown. Annie urged me to hurry from inside. I had nothing to bring. It had been a while since my last visit. This time, brought by Annie, I felt a bit nervous out of nowhere. As I battled within myself, Annie's parents appeared from inside. The moment they saw me, Annie's mom had tears in her eyes. Jack, you're back? Auntie, it's been too long. I quickly walked over and held her hand. After my parents unexpectedly passed, Annie's parents treated me like their own son. They even wanted me to come live with them. But back then, my grandparents took me away from the city. It wasn't until I grew up that I reconnected with them. Seeing a table full of my favorite dishes got me a little choked up. Since my parents' passing, I rarely ate these foods. At first, living with others, I didn't dare ask for them. Later, they became just a memory. I blinked away my stinging eyes and started eating. Throughout the meal, memories flooded my mind. Lying in bed at night, I drifted back to when I first met Rebecca. After visiting my parents' grave that day, I drove back to the firm as usual. At a red light, I saw Rebecca cornered by a middle-aged man. Out of professional duty, I helpfully informed the man that he'd be caught for fraud, and suggested Rebecca report it to the police. The man got mad that I ruined his scheme. In anger, he threw a drill at me. Caught off guard, I was injured. Rebecca anxiously checked my wound. After treating it, she said it was her fault and asked for my contact info. We got together 6 months later. The next day, when a call from Rebecca woke me, I was briefly puzzled. Jack, I made your favorite pastry, waiting for you at your office. Half asleep, I wanted to say okay, but suddenly remembered. Rebecca, you don't have to do pointless things like these. Seeing me go to work with Annie, she grabbed my hand and accused. Jack, this is why you insisted on divorcing me, right? You've moved on. Her words made me smirk. Rebecca, if that excuse stops you from bothering me, then yes, it is. Don't think everyone's like you, betraying your partner. You know what you did, don't you? How can you still cling shamelessly? Are you masochistic? Or do you think I'd stomach my disgust and forgive you? Rebecca's face paled as I questioned her. With teary eyes, she asked, Jack, did you just call me disgusting? I nodded without mercy and told her not to pursue me anymore. Whoever I end up with, it wouldn't be her. Then I told Annie that security shouldn't let unrelated people near the office anymore. I hoped Rebecca would lose hope after my harsh words. But the next morning, someone knocking woke me. Checking the time, I assumed it was Annie that early. Hey, and my words stopped seeing Rebecca's face. What are you doing here? Rebecca acted like nothing was wrong and told me she followed me home yesterday. This is the porridge you've always liked, she said. I made it early this morning. Will you try it? Jack, I'm begging you. Can you give me another chance? I was just being soft-hearted before. It won't happen again. Before I could respond, Annie's front door swung open. She stood in her pajamas, leaning against the doorframe, smiling. Jack doesn't actually like porridge, you know? Rebecca's smile froze. She looked at me in disbelief and asked if Annie was telling the truth. I nodded plainly, confirming it. Rebecca refused to believe it and said it couldn't be true. I always told her I loved it. I hadn't replied when Rebecca's phone started to ring. An urgent voice came through so clearly. Rebecca, you're trending. Check it out. Quick. Rebecca frowned, annoyed, and asked what the trending topic was about. Someone uploaded your photos online, and the director wants you back immediately. Rebecca's face turned pale. She shot me a panicked glance and left hurriedly. I took out my phone and saw the notification pop up. Gorgeous doctor's scandalous affair photos. I swiped the notification away and went about my morning. That night, a video of Rebecca arguing with Andy at the hospital hit the trends again. In the video, Andy looked livid. He held a knife to his wrist, shouting at Rebecca. Sis, you said you'd be with me. I've got everything ready at home. Why'd you change your mind last minute? I can't live without you. If you don't come with me, I'll die. Rebecca coldly watched him and replied indifferently that she'd never be with him. The person I love is not you. Hearing this, Andy grew even crazier. He slashed his own arms repeatedly. After the incident went viral, Rebecca got fired from the hospital. Andy ended up with severe blood loss and brain hypoxia. He became a vegetable. After his parents found out, they took Rebecca to court. They demanded compensation from Rebecca. I saw Rebecca again after the cooling-off period for our divorce ended. She looked worn out with dark circles under her eyes. Gone was her former confident self. Let's go, I said, stepping into the Civil Affairs Bureau first. After getting our divorce papers, she looked at me teary-eyed and whispered an apology. I heard her case with Andy's parents starts tomorrow. I wasn't interested in asking more. I just hopped into Annie's car, waiting nearby. Congrats on your freedom, she said. I accepted the flowers Annie handed me. Let's go. They're waiting for us. A year later, Annie and I registered our marriage. Her parents couldn't contain their joy. We didn't plan on having a wedding. The day after I posted our marriage certificate on social media, a random text came in, wishing you happiness. I deleted the message without a thought and snuggled closer to Annie, watching our movie. From here on out, my days will keep getting happier.